Thank you for your time. I'm going to talk about enCore Energy. We're becoming the next producer of uranium in the U.S. As you would expect, could have potential forward-looking statements, so we have to have the disclaimer. Real quickly, our business is, one of the things that, reason why to invest in enCore is we have an experienced management team. We've been advancing projects in secure jurisdictions in the U.S. with near-term production imminent. And we're focused on in situ recovery, which is has relatively low capital cost, low operating costs, and allows us to leverage even lower grade uranium deposits than what you're used to hearing about. We got to focus on production and also bringing in new technologies to help bolster our economics. So we got our production strategy is centered on two production facilities we acquired in Texas back in the end of 2020. We're using in situ recovery. We're also using a satellite operating system where our central processing plant is in operation. It's fed by satellite ion exchange facilities at the well fields, our mines, and that we transfer resin from our mines to the central processing plant where we actually recover the uranium. And when we talk about mines, they're in situ well fields, and our plants are effectively giant water softener plants, like water treatment plants. With that, we have about 1.6 million pounds of capacity there, and we're targeted for early 2023 for start of production. We have additional upside on our production pipeline, and we have significant mineral resources we've accumulated over the last couple of years. And we have advanced production pipeline projects in South Dakota, Wyoming, and New Mexico. Our corporate structure, our market cap, it's pretty close to where that's as close as we're going to get to in today's market. You can see we've got a pretty strong book. We've got cash. We just did a financing at the end of March that gives us enough cash to get in to start cash flowing in 2023. So we'll be in production and we'll be bringing in cash. One of the things that's a strength that we have our competitors in the U.S. don't have is we got probably the best bench strength in the industry. That picture right there represents well over 200 years worth of experience just in the uranium industry, and with operational as well as marketing as well and all other types of programs we have within our business. Gives us a bench strength, and that includes also our most recent hire. You see in the lower left-hand corner, Peter Luthiger, who joined as our Chief Operating Officer. So in addition to my 35 years in the industry, he brings in another 40 years worth of experience directly into the operations with in situ recovery experience. Also, we have Blake Steele, who was the former CEO of Azarga Resources, who's on board as our strategic advisor. And I want to give credit to our founder of the company, Bill Sheriff. He's been in the business for quite some time, and he's well known for those in the junior uranium industry, and has a history of taking assets and turning them into real value for shareholders. We've already heard the story about the global uranium environment. I will add to what my colleagues ahead of me said, is that I'll focus strictly on a U.S. focus. We're seeing in the United States a real drive for nuclear power, focusing on small modular reactors, but also converting our nuclear fuel from being 100% imports to being supported by a significant domestic fuel supply, which has been allowed to deteriorate over the last 20 years. And right now, 50% of the uranium that comes in services the U.S. nuclear fleet comes to the port of St. Petersburg, Russia, not Florida. And so that means we've got a real crisis in our hands when he looks at it from a supply chain situation. The U.S. government has not missed on that. The problem is we're a little late behind the curve, but no reactors are going to run out of fuel. But it creates a great catalyst for the industry. I can tell you right now, I did not expect to have attempted coup in Kazakhstan and invasion of Ukraine on my 2020 bingo card. They were all possibilities, but we certainly didn't expect them to happen in the first quarter of this year. But it's created a completely different market and industry than what we saw just 6 months ago, and our expectations and what the status quo is. And it just goes to show that when you're talking about a global commodity like uranium, it's always a constant flux. It's always something changing beyond your expectations. And the one thing that hasn't changed is that nuclear power is growing throughout the world, not only with a couple of new nuclear power plants in the United States, but globally, whether it's the Emirates or Saudi Arabia or China or India, et cetera. There's nuclear power growth now going, and that's why we see the fundamentals of this market remain strong. And the U.S. Congress has been providing support as well by providing a grant program for distressed nuclear power plants that get a preference by buying U.S. uranium. And that's a $6 billion fund. We're seeing movement within getting uranium, Congress creating a statutory definition of uranium as a critical mineral to bring about a much more accelerated permitting process and more certain. That's the one thing we're working on, is we're working in jurisdictions where there's regulatory certainty. And that's what you see on this map. We range all the way from South Dakota in the north, where one of our key properties, pipeline properties, Dewey Burdock, sits, to Wyoming, where we've got the Gas Hills project we're advancing, all the way down to New Mexico, which we see as our long-term future. But our most short-term future sits in Texas. And Texas has, with the in situ plants right now, we've invested on upgrading and modernizing the Rosita plant, and we're adding properties to feed that project. And what we like about Texas is it's an agreement state, which means that there's no federal decision with respect to advancing our project. It's all done at the state level. So currently, in addition to completing the modernization, we're also drilling out well fields right now. We're putting in well fields right now at Rosita to kick off our production. We also are going to start doing some exploration work on some new properties, and we've been acquiring resources. We haven't been publishing in those, but we're in the process of putting all those resources together, where you'll be hearing more about that. But the idea is to advance our in situ recovery opportunities to create what we would like to call a production powerhouse in the United States. This is Texas, focused on the Rosita Central Processing Plant located right there in the center of that map. And we're also bringing in new uranium resources that have been identified that are already partially permitted that we can immediately bring into production with minimal regulatory review. And that's what our short-term focus is. Because we're getting into production in 2023, we already have supply agreements in place. We have two currently we have announced that start in 2023 and will continue through 2030 altogether. And we feel that's given us the confidence to move forward even when we see significant movement in the spot price of uranium. We're not reliant on the spot price now to make our financial decisions. As you can see, we started drilling out at Rosita. We have the advantage of scalability, even though I talk about where we show here 1.6 million pounds of capacity right now. We actually can scale that up without further license amendments if we need to. Everything's going to be based on economics and market timing. But we see great opportunities in Texas, and that's going to base load our growth strategy into South Dakota and Wyoming, where we can, while Texas is continuing to act as a base load of production, Texas and Wyoming will be supporting the top end. This is a little bit about in situ recovery. We're quite a bit different than what you hear about up in the Athabasca. There's no underground mining. There's no tailings. I know there's some company looking at it in situ up there, but we see this as an advance. It allows us to go after lower grade deposits for cheaper overall cost. And that's it. That's our story. Proven management, experience. Thank you.